So I'm standing in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago on a little knoll right across the street from the Natural History Museum. And I'm looking at this 30-foot tall banner inviting people to come in and look at their multi-million-dollar Darwinian display. And for as far as the eye can see, yellow public school bus after yellow public school bus after yellow public school bus dropping off hundreds and hundreds of unsuspecting children. And they're running up those marble steps between those marble columns to be indoctrinated that death and suffering existed before man and that they had evolved without God. And I was just shaking. I was so mad about it. Wasn't much I could do. But I just stood there thinking, I wonder how many Christian parents are somewhere making their $17 or $18 an hour right now, not knowing their child's faith is being destroyed at this very moment. And they won't find out about it until the kid leaves church at the age of 20. Vladimir Lenin stated, "Give me your 4-year-olds, and in one generation, I will build a socialist state." In 1963, Florida Congressman Al Herlong tried to warn Americans and Congress about the growing communist agenda in America. And he read to Congress the 45 published communist goals, which included do away with loyalty oaths like the Pledge of Allegiance. I know where I live, they no longer say under God in the pledge. Belittle American history and culture to make kids ashamed to be Americans. And get control of the schools and the teachers' unions. This Christian and former public school teacher said, a teachers' union rep pushing to begin 4-year-olds in kindergarten told us the sooner we get these kids away from their parents and into the hands of knowledgeable teachers, the better. To start that indoctrination process as early as possible. Back to the published goals, they included eliminating prayer in schools, breaking down cultural standards of morality, getting rid of biblical morals and absolutes, and teaching kids that homosexuality and promiscuity are normal and even healthy. The Obama administration appointed this radical homosexual activist to be the safe school czar for America's public schools. He wrote the teacher's instructional queering elementary education. President Barack Obama said in a recent speech, I propose working with states to make preschool available to every child in America. Let's get them in the hands of knowledgeable teachers and away from their parents as soon as possible. In 1962, the top problems in public schools were kids chewing gum in class. Today, the problems range from pregnancy to homosexuality, abortion, and gang rape. Joseph Stalin said, education is a weapon, the effect of which is determined by the hands which wield it. Karl Marx said, people without a heritage are easily persuaded. They're easily defeated. If you don't understand your nation's heritage, you won't see any reason to stand up for it. You might even sit back and let millions of people just invade your country and not say a thing about it. He said the first battlefield is the rewriting of a nation's history. And my friends, America's great history and Christian heritage has been totally erased. The primary weapons of mass instruction employed by public schools through the curriculum include rewriting America's history, negative propaganda, specifically toward America and Christianity, and teaching kids there are no moral absolutes. This columnist and political commentator stated the prevailing education is destined to destroy Western civilization and is, in fact, destroying it. And that statement comes from 1940. The goals of mass instruction are to convince children to be ashamed to be Americans. You know, kids are graduating high school embarrassed to be Americans. While most of the rest of the world, there are millions of people risking their lives to get here. They're training kids to be embarrassed to be Christians and to reject Christianity, and to accept the coming one world government. Lenin stated, if we can kill the national pride and patriotism of just one generation, we will have won that country. This textbook tells kids when Jefferson wrote all men are equal, he really meant all citizens. Women and blacks were not included. Well, first of all, Jefferson never wrote all men are equal. He wrote in the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. This is a biblical principle that all men, and that means men and women, it means white, yellow, brown, black skin, whatever, all human beings are made in the image of God. And he put this in our Declaration. Now, it took another 75 years. Remember, America was founded in a world full of slavery. You couldn't just outlaw slavery. It took a civil war and 600,000 Americans dying to get rid of the yoke of slavery. And if we teach our kids that, that's something we should be proud of. 600,000 men gave their lives. That's something we should be proud of. But that's a message that pulls everybody together. I don't think that's the goal, is it? This textbook tells kids Enlightenment thinkers in the American colonies were the first people in history to create a new government based upon Enlightenment principles. Enlightenment principles? You know, of the many things they omitted was the fact that the framers of the U.S. Constitution, the authors themselves, listed the King James Bible as the primary reference source for the U.S. Constitution. Noah Webster, one of the greatest Americans of all time, definitely our greatest educator, he wrote the first American dictionary and the Blueback Speller, which was used to train up America's children for the first 150 years of our existence as a nation. Under this man's tutelage, we rose to being the greatest nation on earth. Noah Webster said, our citizens should early understand, that is, from a very early age, know that the genuine source of correct Republican principles is the Bible, particularly the New Testament. Adolf Hitler said, let me control the textbooks and I will control the state. This textbook tells kids Jesus learned the Jewish religion and then started his own religion. This textbook, it's a teacher's guide, tells the teachers that when you're teaching about the Roman Colosseum, make sure you tell the kids that Christians were the true persecutors of the era. Well, this textbook ends a chapter with a role-playing exercise for the kids. It says, kids, take the role of a Roman disturbed by the rise of Christianity and write a letter explaining why you are opposed to Christianity. So the Christian children in that class, do you think maybe they're going to be shamed to be Christians? Remember, the neo-Marxist goals were to undermine Christian morals and biblical absolutes, causing a nation to implode upon itself. Moral relativism has ruled the roost in schools for the past 20 years. Kids are taught that there are no absolutes, no biblical absolutes or morals. What's good for you, well, that's fine, but it's equal to what's good for this person, and what that person over there thinks is fine is just as valid as what that person or what you think. There are no absolutes. And once teaching little kids this, they then ask unsuspecting little 8-year-olds open-ended questions that guide them into accepting the humanistic worldview. For example, little Johnny, since what's right for you is just as valid as what's right for that person or that person or that person, shouldn't homosexuals have the right to get married? Well, what are they going to say? Absolutely. And that's why you see more and more states approving homosexual marriage, because graduates keep coming out of these schools and they rule the roost. Hitler understood the importance of indoctrinating the youth. He stated that he alone who owns the youth gains the future. And humanists understand this very well. The Humanist Manifesto, too, was published in 1973. It states, "We deplore the division of humankind on nationalistic grounds and look forward to the development of a system of world law and order based upon a transnational federal government, a one-world government." This Nebraska senator stated in 1983 in a radio address, "Bible-believing people do not have the right to indoctrinate their children in their religious beliefs because we, the state, are preparing them for when America will be part of a one-world global society, and Christian children will not fit in." That was 30 years ago. Oh, it's 100 times worse than that today. Remember, Stalin said education is a weapon, the effect of which is determined by the hands which wield it. The Department of Education and the National Education Association are not there for the children. They're there to benefit teachers, unions, and administrators. In fact, the NEA General Counsel told the 2009 NEA Convention,
"Why are these conservative and right-wing picking on NEA and its affiliates? NEA and its affiliates have been singled out because they are the most effective unions in the United States. And they are the nation's leading advocates for public education and the type of liberal social and economic agenda that these groups find unacceptable."
You know, we spend hundreds of billions of dollars annually on education. It actually comes out to about $13,000 per child per year. So a class of 30 costs taxpayers about $390,000. Well, if the teacher gets $45,000, where does the other $345,000 go? You ever hear we need more money for education? There's probably 10 times more money right now. It's just someone's getting it and it's not getting into the school, is it? And it's not getting to the teachers, is it? Teachers here, if you're part of the NEA, I'm going to ask you, why?
It is not because we care about children, and it is not because we have a vision of a great public school for every child. NEA and its affiliates are effective advocates because we have power.
And when you're skimming 300 grand per classroom times tens of thousands of classrooms across America, you've got power. And they're using your tax money to get it.